Uh, Good evening, councillors, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Councillor Mohammed Ayub. I chair Traffic Management Subcommittee. I would like to welcome you to tonight's meeting, which has been used equipment connecting to the chamber in Microsoft Teams. There is a live stream available through Teams, and a recording of this meeting will be uploaded to the council website afterwards. I'll begin tonight's meeting with, do we have any declaration of interest? No, I don't see anything. Minutes of the meeting previously held on the 2nd of March. Can I take these as correct minutes? Agreed. Thank you. Item 3 is questions from member of public and councillors. We have none. No from councillors. No. So we'll move on to item 4, which is petitions. We have a request to improve road safety on Hamilton Road in junction with Crescent Road. We have Mr. David Ripley to speak. Good evening, sir. Welcome. You can turn your mic on.
Good evening.
Right, sir, before you begin, we have 5 minutes to speak. Once you start speaking on this, and this will be showing just to members some slides there as well to improve. So carry on.
Okay. My name is David Whipple. I'm speaking on behalf of the community in Hamilton Road about the junction between Hamilton Road and Crescent Road. This is within a housing area, a 20-mile-an-hour zone. Crescent Road is effectively a rat run between the hospital area and the Wokingham Road. It has several schools along it, a cluster of 3 schools at one end. Hamilton Road itself is marked out as being the major road at the moment. So traffic along Crescent Road has to give way. The area is a 20-mile-an-hour zone, and there's a moderately steep hill that comes down Hamilton Road from the south to the junction. Right, the Hamilton Road community has expressed concern over safety. Typically, traffic doesn't give way coming on Crescent Road. Visibility is very poor. The junction is highly skewed, so people have to crane their necks a very long way to see traffic. And they only have a split second to do so if they are continuing over the junction without stopping. We get quite a lot of, at any time you can see near miss incidents. You only have to stand there for 5 minutes and you'll see them. Probably the accident that's really waiting to happen is with cyclists freewheeling down the hill and going quite legitimately straight across the junction. Something is likely to pull out in front of it. Right. Yes, this is what the junction looks like. Probably most of you have driven across it at some stage or other. It's dominated by a very large cedar tree, but that doesn't actually affect the issue very much. What does affect the issue is the very high walls in the acute angles of the junction. Next slide, please. At the moment, as you approach on Crescent Road, as you approach the junction, I've got views here from 30 meters prior to the junction, driver's eye views, 30 meters to the junction, and then within 3 meters of the junction, looking left up Hamilton Road. And you'll see that even at 3 meters from the junction, you don't see very far up the road. Next slide. It's exactly the same situation in the opposite direction. heading eastwards. This time the wall is even closer to the edge, and you get an even worse view of the junction. What I would argue is that with a give way, which allows you to proceed if you can see that the way is clear, you simply don't have time enough as a driver in that final 3 meters to crane your neck round to the left and still keep watching to the right for those cyclists coming fast down the hill. Next slide. These are just typical pictures of taken in the space of 5 minutes. The car on the left, this is looking down Hamilton Road. The car on the left coming out of Crescent Road just came straight out and turned right across everything else. The van was waiting properly. On the lower picture, the black car barely stopped, but it paused at that point with its front wheel well over the white line. And incidentally, a jogger went across without looking. Next. Same again, just looking in the other direction. Car on the top, it's stopped, paused a good 2 meters beyond the white line. If there'd been a cyclist coming down there, he wouldn't have had time to stop. Right, so we have we've made various suggestions based on a community WhatsApp group and a poll of the residents, and we've had a lot of suggestions, some of them frivolous, but 1 or 2 are fairly sensible. And I'd like to present the ones that are fairly sensible. The first and simplest is to recategorize the junction. I'll come to this in a moment. The second is to reconfigure the junction to add bollards and force cars to come to a halt, in effect. The third is to apply a speed table across the whole junction, which would slow down traffic, yes, but it would slow it down in all directions. And the fourth would be to put extended speed cushions extending right across the junction. Now, I'll explain all of these in the next few slides. So if we can go to the...
Sir, your time's nearly up. You got half. Could you just wrap up?
Thank you.
Next half a minute or so.
Recategorize the junction. Next slide, sorry. Just to change it from give way to stop and paint the lines accordingly. I think that would, if in theory that would work, but in practice people would ignore it unless they had a camera system to enforce it. Next. This is my personal preferred thing, which would be to force the traffic to the approaching traffic to move around by putting bollards in the road, separating the lanes and forcing an approach at more nearly perpendicularly to the Hamilton Road. It would involve adjusting the curb lines and moving some street furniture. Next. A speed table is just to raise the level generally throughout the junction. I think, as I understand it, there's no way of doing this while maintaining road priority on one road versus the other. So all cars would have to give way to all other cars based on eye contact.
Right. Thank you, sir. Your time's up now, but I'm sure we got all the documentations there. I would take your petitions in, and we will do further work with the officers. Do any councillors want to say anything? Okay, Councillor White, could you make it?
Yeah. Thank you very much, Chair. That's very kind of you. I just wanted to speak in support of taking action on this junction. I know that as ward councillors, we have raised issues with road safety issues at this junction before, cars not stopping and it being a hazard for cyclists, especially as vulnerable road users. It is on the way to a number of schools, so I welcome the recommended action. I hope that officers will come back, having looked at the sort of wonderful suggestions from residents, and we'll have some concrete action. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor White. Councillor Ennis.
I'd like to thank the resident for your petition and for your, that was very helpful. The slides really helpful and well thought through. And what the procedure is that the officers will take the comments and proposals contained in your petition, and they'll report your findings to a future meeting of this subcommittee, where it will be engagement with the lead, myself as the lead councillor, John Ellis, lead councillor, traffic and climate strategy, and your ward councillors. So they'll have a right to have some sort of representation on those findings. The list is large, but I think you've done a really good job in explaining it and making it clear to us as a panel. And I know the area well, and I know the issue. So thanks ever so much for that. And more work though, James, but it's important, isn't it? But thanks ever so much.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for coming in this evening and presenting this. And if you want to take a seat back and stay for the rest of the meeting, you're quite welcome to. And if you wish to go, you can do so. Thank you. All right. We'll move on to item 5, which is waiting restriction review program, which is on page 27 to 142.
Chair, do we need to formally approve those recommendations? Previous item.
Sorry, Andrew. Councillor Andrew.
So it's just
Yes, we did. I said we agree for further work. Yeah. Is subcommittee agreement with that? Yeah. Okay. Right. So, sorry. Item 5, waiting restriction review program on page 27 to 42 in your papers. Could I have an officer, Jim, so you can represent this?
Okay, thank you, Chair. Thank you, committee. So this is a two-part report. So the first part is reporting back the results or the feedback we've had to the proposed schemes under the 2022B programme. So they are in Appendix 1. Appendix 2 contains the detail for 3 petitions that we received against some of those proposals. So we're seeking a decision on whether each scheme that's received objections gets implemented or removed from the programme, and a reminder to the subcommittee that we'll need a decision either way on all of those schemes before we can proceed to implementation on any. So they're all advertised in the same traffic regulation order. And part B, we've investigated the requests that were made under the 2023A programme. We've shared our initial recommendations with members, and these are the proposals and recommendations that we're making to take to statutory consultation over the summer to report back later. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. The first, the subcommittee knows that we take this by ward. So the first we have is Abbey, which is in Friar Street. Councillor Page.
Chair, I would propose that we agree the officer's recommendation on this.
Right. Thank you. Agreed with that one.
And Chair, can I just give my apologies to the subcommittee? I have mayoral duties in a few minutes, so I won't be here for long, which may well be welcome.
Okay, Councillor Hodge, thank you. Okay, right. So, right, everyone.
To the Lord Mayor's show comes the dust cart.
Thank you. Thank you, councillors. Next one we have is in
Sorry.
Battle Ward, Ellen Park Road, a request for restriction vehicle parking on public cycle obstructing access to Norfolk Road. Councillor Wendy?
I recommend that we go ahead with this, that we support it.
Yep, okay. Got that. All right, sorry, yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
Councillor
I'd like-
Hacker?
Yeah, I'd like to
welcome.
support this too. I think it's important that we
Agree.
support cyclists and pedestrians where people actually acknowledge they shouldn't really be parking there anyway.
Thank you, councillor. And Loverock Road, are we in support with that? That's in battle as well. Restrictions, double yellow lines, yep. Agreement with that. Next we have is Caversham, which is Duncan Hill, Anglefield Road.
Yes, I support the proposal.
You're okay with that? Looking around. Yeah, go ahead, James.
Sorry, may I just ask a quick question? So one of the comments that we had back was as a request to reduce those lines. So may I just check, are we happy to implement as advertised as a subcommittee, or would you prefer us to implement with the proposed or optional reduction?
Thank you very much for asking this. We are happy to support as proposed, so the longer 30 meters line. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. The next one again in Caversham, are you, Hamdeen Road?
Happy to support it.
Yep. Great. I'm looking around also. Right. This is, next one I have is in Caversham again, Duncan Hill and Lower Henley Road. This is a request for double yellow line, junction of Lower Henley Road.
Yes, we read the objection and we do not support this. So we would like this to be withdrawn.
You want to withdraw
Thank you.
these? Okay. Sorry, Caversham Priest Hill. This is a request for double yellow lines.
Yes,
Councillor.
same as the previous one. I've been told, we would like to more work to be done on it. So I've been told the right thing I should say is to reject it, right? So that it also. Sorry, I'm a newbie. I need to learn your language.
No problem. Next, we have Caversham Heights, Gurding Close, request for restriction on Gurding Close Junction, Upper Woodcote Road.
Yes, support.
Yes, for that one. Next item we have is Church and Redlands. This is a request for disabled parking bay outside the row of shops.
Yes, Chair, if I
Councillor.
may. I think we should support the scheme. I don't think there's a clear officer recommendation on this. The 4 objections, 3 support. However, we have one of the objectors talks about the displacement of cars. Several of them talk about displacement of cars. Well, I think there's plenty of space around North Court Avenue for that. But we do definitely need to support cycling and the scheme that we've just put into place in Shinfield Road, and the continuation of that. The current situation may not have actually led to an accident, but it is a real discouragement from cyclists coming down Shinfield Road towards the town centre. So I would say that we should go with this and implement it.
Okay, Councillor Adele, you indicate.
Thank you, Chair. Just Councillor Cross of Redlands Ward is also inclined to support the changes as supported by Councillor Hornsby Smith.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor White.
Just to add in that I've spoken with the Redlands councillors and they also support the scheme. The Redlands Green Party councillor, they also support the scheme, and they made the plea that could there be a bit more enforcement in the vicinity, because we think there will be some displacement of cars. We think some decent enforcement should help to manage that properly.
Right.
Thank you.
Right, thank you, Councillor White. James, go ahead. Okay. Next item we have is Coley Ward, which is Brownlow Road. Councillor Paul Gitting.
Thank you, Chair. Ward councillors actually are of the opinion that we should not proceed with this scheme based on the feedback from residents and objections.
Okay. James, okay. We're doing that. Okay. Again, we have Coley Park, Lesford Road, Heron Way.
We would very much like to proceed with this.
This is okay, yeah. Okay, we'll proceed with that one. Thank you. And again, Coley, Maitland Road.
Yes, with the Maitland Road scheme, we are in favour of, as are most of the residents, so we would like to proceed with that.
Okay, to proceed with that one. Thank you. Next item is Emma Green, Kendall Avenue. We only have one objection and I haven't heard anything from the councillors. I'm looking for the subcommittee. Are we happy to go with this one? Yeah. Okay. Okay, James, yeah, to go ahead with that. Next item I have is Kate's Grove, which is, which is a complaint received pedestrian walking through Chamber Close due to happen. This is in Kate's Grove. Councillor Ennis, I think you had an email.
A discussion with Liam Challenger, who's been in touch with, with residents on the consultation, and feel that this shouldn't go ahead.
Okay. Councillor White.
They might want to oppose it. They might want to go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. That's very kind of you to let me speak. I've spoken to the Green councillors in Kate's Grove and the lead petitioner who submitted a petition against the Chandon Close scheme. There were 54 signatures in total, with some more recent ones to that petition. There is a strength of feeling from local residents that it will make parking a lot worse in the area with the cars that will be displaced. I've got a statement from the resident, but as it seems that we've agreed, I think we should vote against that and move on.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor White, thank you. We're going to take that. All right, next we have is Kentwood Armour Hill, which is a request for considering installing parking restriction on Armour Hill and entrance of Arthur Newbury Park.
Thank you.
Right, Councillor Singh and.
Thank you, Chair. Before I speak, I would like to also pay tribute to our colleague Colette Tennis, and out of our side, but not out of our heart. She always smiled. What I remembered when I heard the news, I was really sad because she always smiled. And when she campaigned in Kentwood, I was afraid of her smile at the doorstep than 20 Labour activists. And I got along very well with her. So I'm really, really saddened by that news. And my deep condolences to Councillor Dennis as well. So I just wanted to express that. On this issue, I'm going to support this. There's one objection. I've spoken to the residents. There's support for this. The objection is about saying children would be at risk because of double yellow line. I feel it's other way around. If you have cars parked there and suddenly someone is coming over and there's a kid which has 4-year-old crossing the road, it's more dangerous than anything. So I support this.
Councillor
you.
Markey.
The Labour councillors would also support this one. I've been stood there on a number of occasions and see cars impacting because there's just so little room. Also, I'm concerned about children running out the park area. So very much in support of this going ahead.
Thank you, councillors. Yeah. Kentwood, this is Lyndhurst Road, right, which is a request for restriction between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. due to long-standing sufficient. I'm sure you read the papers. Councillor Markey, Mark, keeping you indicated. Awesome.
Thank you. I'd like to remind those present that the purpose of the consultation was to address the situation with parked vehicles of all types on the pavement. This was a matter which residents had asked us to look into. We were advised that without a waiting restriction, the council could not take action. Officers recommended a double yellow line for the length of Lyndhurst Road on the affected side, and this was something that I knew would not be acceptable to residents. So I instead proposed a time-limited single yellow line on one side so as not to disadvantage the residential parking after work. This was accepted by this committee, and that was what went into the consultation. I'd like to express my gratitude to the residents who participated in the consultation process. Their valuable input and feedback are crucial in shaping the decisions that affect our community. The consultation closed in March, and a very clear result was that the majority rejected the proposal. As an elected representative and resident of the ward, it's essential I respect the views of my fellow Kentwood residents and take them into consideration when voting on decisions that will impact them. I would like to draw attention to the approach taken by the Conservative councillor for Kentwood, who previously did not speak out against double yellow lines on both Lyndhurst Road and Bates Hill, something I'm sure he would have failed to mention when he campaigned recently. While I acknowledge there may be a valid reason for considering such measures, it's crucial to differentiate ourselves from each other. Unlike Councillor Singh, I've made it a priority to take on board the views of local residents during the consultation phase. Their rejection of this proposed waiting restriction must not be ignored or dismissed lightly. In light of the clear response from the residents against the waiting restriction, I'll be voting to reject the adoption of the proposal. It is imperative that I respect the collective voice of my local community and take their wishes into account when considering future actions. Before I finish, I'd like to draw to the attention of this committee the matter of the petitions on this proposal, and I do emphasise petitions in the plural. A redacted example sheet is in the appendix in your papers. However, I would also like the committee to understand that the number of signatories provided, approximately half are on different sheets to the ones that you can see. And I'm not clear whether both sets came from the same source or not. Those other sheets reference a double yellow line, and I would therefore suggest that this other petition is not a valid response to this consultation and should be discounted. Finally, neither petition set changes the clear rejection by the individual consultation responses. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Singh.
Thank you, Chair. I do not have a prepared speech of 5 minutes, but we did spend hours and hours on the street talking to the residents about this issue. While I am not going to do nitpicking about double yellow line or the A4 paper or the color of the paper and all those things, end of the day, it's the residents who have objected to it. And 86 signatures you see the petitions is done by the Conservative councillors. They went door on door where it was raining and shining to making everyone aware about the situation. Well, I'm glad to see Councillor Mark Kipping changing his view, previously pushing for it and asking to reduce the time to 8 p.m. Now completely changing his view to rejecting it. So I'm glad our petition is working, and even Labour councillors who are usually very reluctant to change their view have changed it. So I welcome his stand, and I welcome his voting against this, and I agree I should be voting against this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Singh. We're agreement with that? No? All right. Moving on to the next item, which is in Kentwood and Tylers and Norfolk Jung. This is request to shorten the existing parking bay, London Road. So is that okay to proceed?
Fine with me. Yeah, thank you. Fine with Tilehurst councillors.
Yeah. Okay, buddy. Okay, Jim. Yep. James. Go
Sorry,
ahead.
may I just ask a quick question to the subcommittee? So as per the officer comment, we've proposed that we remove this because the one objector was the person requesting it. And I have to be careful what I say because of data protection in a public forum, but we've had a lot of dialogue and ultimately they didn't want this proposal and we couldn't find a solution for them. So apologies, but our recommendation has been to remove it. It's just something for the subcommittee to take into consideration. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, everyone agree with that? Yeah. Thank you. Next item we have is for Park Ward, Crescent Road and Hamilton Road. Play Street, request for loading bay ban.
Yes to all of the ones in Park Ward, please.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor White. And again, Park Ward, Palmer Park Avenue, request for traffic regulation order to made, marking on blue badge.
Yeah, it's Palmer Park rather than Palmer Park Avenue, but yes, please.
Yeah, got that, James. Thank you. Right. Next item we have is Redlands Alden Terrace. Yeah. Councillor Ennis.
Discussions with Councillor Will Cross about this, and in consultation with residents, it's requested not to go forward. Thank you.
Councillor White.
Yeah, again, I've spoken with Redlands councillors and residents, and yeah, no to this one. It's
Thank you,
good to be in
Councillor
such agreement.
Thank you. Yeah. Thames Ward, Kennerside, Councillor Adele.
Thank you, Chair. I think this has suffered, this proposal has suffered by the fact it's in Thames Ward, but the residents who would be affected by it are in Park Ward. So it seems like they've had some correspondence with the Park Ward councillors that the Thames Ward councillors weren't aware of. I think there's a very sensible suggestion in here to cancel it now and have further conversations. So through you, Chair, if the Park Ward councillors could put the Thames Ward councillors in contact with the residents who are concerned about this, then we're happy to take it up for them. So we'll withdraw it for now.
Thank you, Councillor Adele. Councillor White.
Thank you. Yeah, happy with that approach. Although they haven't been in contact with us directly, they've been in contact through the council's consultation. But I can take a guess about which people it is. So yeah, it would be great to chat about this after the meeting at some point, Adele. Thank you.
Thank you,
Councillor
councillors. Yes. Thank you. Right. This is Thames Ward again, Berry Place, Councillor Adele.
Thank you, Chair. Just checking that Councillor Page has left. Because this used to be an Abbey Ward and this is the proposal they brought forward. We've spent a lot of time talking to the residents of Berry Place. It is not possible to achieve what they were hoping to achieve by this. We've seen in the appendix they've got a proposal of not restricting Berry Place, but keeping the proposed restriction on the areas at the sort of neck of Berry Place. We've discussed that with officers. I think we're agreed with officers that will just displace the problem parking onto Berry Place and make the situation worse. Residents don't want to have paid for parking permits. So I think we're at a standstill for the moment, this one. So if we withdraw it, please, we'll carry on talking to residents. I know there will be other people then come back and be unhappy that it hasn't gone forward. So we can look forward to seeing Berry Place again in the future, but I think this isn't it.
Thank you, Councillor Adele. We'll draw that one. James. Okay. Thank you. Next item we have is in Whitley, Blandford Road, a request to review Meadowcroft Road and Blandford Road junction due to issue with vehicle parking too close to the roundabout. I mean, I've had notice, we only have one objection, so pretty much looking around committee to agree. Head with that one, recommendation. Yeah, John? Yeah, okay, fine. Thank you, James. Thank you, and I think we'll move on to the second part, Appendix 3, request for waiting restriction for 2023A. This is, normally I take this ward by ward, so we have 4 in Abbey Ward, which Councillor Page is not here, but I'm one of the chairs, so we're quite happy with this one to go forward. Yes, James? Okay. Take this forward. Right. Sorry, and the next we have is in Battle Ward, Cranberry Road, request to remove parking spaces and install some double yellow lines to improve access. Looking at Councillor Wendy. Yeah?
Yeah, go ahead with the consultation.
Okay with that one. And Councillor Hacker? Yeah,
Yeah, that's fine.
thank you. James. And next is Caversham Ward, Hamden Road, request for double yellow lines near the entrance of Balmoral Park Surgery.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, you're okay with that? To proceed? Okay, fine. And next ward we have is Church Ward. We have 4 in Church Ward, Damishire Park, Tavistock Road, Northumberland Avenue, and Northumberland.
Okay.
This is a request for double yellow line. So I'm looking at Councillor Andrew.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I've got no objection to numbers 7, 8, and 10. But I do have an objection to the officer recommendation on number 9, which is the proposal to advise residents that they should seek access restriction markings outside their drives. My experience is that access restriction markings are advisory at the best of times. It's unlikely to be effective. I have residents who are constantly in problems up at Ridgeway School, and they've just had the white lines painted there. White lines outside those advisory lines are virtually unenforceable. So I would like this to be retained in the programme with the yellow lines as suggested originally.
Thank you, Councillor. Mr. Freeman, yeah, you want to say?
Thank you very much for the comments, Councillor Hornsby-Smith. At this moment in time, we don't have a scheme designed up. So if you wanted one, can I suggest it gets moved into the next programme? We'll ensure it goes into the next list because we would need to consult these over the summer. The other thing I just wanted to note, and not to contradict you, because that was my understanding of access protection markings as well. However, I note that my counterparts in the parking services team are now offering on our website that if people have an access protection marking, they can enforce against dropped curbs with an access protection marking upon request to do so. So I will ask them to get more information to you and subcommittee members on that and what that means. But I believe it's enforcement against the dropped curb, the driveway access, which they will do if there is an access protection marking and it's requested.
Can I come back, Chair? I mean,
Yeah,
that's great. Thank you very much. The particular case that I've got is that somebody has just put those in and they have a dropped curb, but the police are saying that they can only enforce it if the person is blocked inside their drive. They can't enforce it if the person is trying to get into their drive from outside. And I think there are lots of people that do shift work and stuff like that. So although yes, it could be helpful, In many ways, I don't think they are, and in her case particularly, I know it's not.
Yes, thank you, Councillor. Can I just remind the committee, obviously these items what we have here, and obviously they're going to go out to consultation and, you know, public feedback, and they could be removed later, but if you do have a point on it, please say so. And so what you're saying is to take that out or going forward?
I'm happy to go with what the officer is suggesting, to take it out, get a scheme up, but it should primarily be a yellow line scheme. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Freeman, got that? Yeah, thank you. Continue. Okay, the next item I have is in 2 in Coley Ward, which is Carsdale Close, request for double yellow lines, and also Coley Avenue request restriction parking on double yellow lines. Councillor Paul Gitting.
Yeah. I mean, I think we would like to proceed with these and obviously wait for the consultation process. Okay.
Thank you, Councillor. Very happy to proceed with that one. Okay. Next I have is Emma Green, Almond Drive request for original review program B 2022, and also Aldenham Crest Avenue, request for double yellow lines on due to car parking near the junction, Henley Road and Oaks Grove. Happy to produce with this, everybody? Yeah, I think they're going out for consultation. No objection. Okay, I haven't received anything as a chair from anybody, so we'll proceed with these. Yeah, okay, fine. Right. Next we have 5 items in Catesgrove, which is Newark Street, Northumberland Avenue, which is border of Church and Catesgrove, and also Northumberland Avenue. This is requesting to remove, the first one, Newark Street, is to remove and shared facilities on the road changes permit. So, Councillor White.
Yeah, having spoken to Catesgrove Green councillors, Newark Street, they're happy for that one to be removed from the programme. And I've got a comment on the rest of them as well, but yeah, call me in.
On the New York?
No, on the rest of the Catesgrove ones, so just letting you know.
Okay. One, James, you got that? Yeah, okay. Thank you. We proceed to one in Whitley, so we proceed the one Kentwood Ward.
Oh, sorry, Chair. I thought you were going to go through them one at a time.
Yeah, 21. Yeah, sorry. Catesgrove, Whitley Street.
Yeah, so I'm just taking them on the, so Whitley Street, the Catesgrove councillors disagreed with the recommendation. They thought that, I cycled up Whitley Street today and there were 2 cars parked in the cycle lane. There are pretty much every time I go up there, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 cars parked in the cycle lane. The current enforcement just isn't working. I hear what's said in the report from officers that they are not convinced that double yellow lines are going to be much more effective, but I think they would at least be a visual deterrent, and they would deter some of the people from parking in the double yellow lines. If we leave it as it is, it's just, there's no point in having that cycle lane there because cars are parked in it so frequently, it's just not working as a cycle lane. So I'd ask the committee to keep that one in there so it can be worked up and consulted on.
Thank you, Councillor.
Chair, can I also add on to that? Every time I drive up there to go to the ward, I see that there are cars parked in that, and it infuriates me. We just spent thousands and thousands of pounds creating a cycle lane, and that's safe, and we're doing it right across to the boundary of Reading. So I entirely agree with the points there. I think there is parking opposite. It is restricted. We know that. I think it's really important that we safeguard the investment we've made for cyclists up that hill, and so I agree with your approach, and I think that we should retain this in the scheme.
Thank Thank you. Thank you, councillor. Yep, Mr. Freeman, yeah, you want to add something to it? Yeah.
No, thank you very much. It infuriates me as well, as I see that regularly, and I completely understand the comments that have been made. I understand the deterrent argument, certainly with double yellow lines. I think, I guess one of the primary points that we're trying to raise is that they don't bring any additional enforcement powers to the kind of double parking that's happening versus what's already there. The other challenge is that we've got a limited cycle facility that already has a painted buffer zone in. To put double yellow lines in that as well, that's a lot of paint in a narrow cycle lane, which isn't pleasant to cycle on. May I propose that if we want to take this forward again, we haven't got a scheme drawn up, so we may need to investigate this in the next programme. Through fear of causing concern, may I propose that we give some consideration to a red route restriction as a future possibility? What that does do is it means that people have to stop in bays and only in bays. If they stop outside bays, then they'll be in breach of the red route restriction, and you can enforce it by CCTV. Now, I say at this point, possibly, because we would need to do a lot of work on what that red route was going to be, and there would need to be some investment in that. But that is the only weighting restriction I can think of that achieves what we want to achieve here, all of us, effectively, and without creating potentially more hazards for cyclists when it is clear. So may I propose that potentially we take this out at the moment, consider options for a future programme, and maybe consider what we could do there if that was desirable.
Councillor White.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, James, and thank you, Councillor Hornsby-Smith. So I guess my only concern would be that the problem that we've got is here and now. Cyclists have experienced it at the moment, and even if we went with doing something as part of this programme, it will take like a year to work its way through the system. So if we knock it back to another programme, then I don't know, is that going to be a year and a half, 2 years until we get some lines on the road? So that's my concern about. I like the idea of red routing it. I'd also like to know what's the difference between red routing it, or practically what's the difference between red routing it and putting in a loading ban, because you need signage for both, don't you? And that was the objection when I suggested a loading ban rather than ordinary double yellow lines.
Councillor. Any councillors want to add something? Okay, Mr. Freeman, you want to?
The issue we'd have with putting a loading ban in there now is that you have bays where there isn't a loading ban, and you'd then be proposing to put a loading ban on the outside of those. Both need signs, both would be different, and we can see a situation, and our enforcement team would as well, of where you put those signs, so it's clear which sign applies to which restriction, and the fear that actually it's going to be unenforceable full stop through unclear signing. So that's the primary objection that we would have to putting a loading ban on there now. The red route means that you would have one set of signing across that route, and it would be, for example, the equivalent of double reds, no stopping at any time except when there is a bay with signing. So essentially the route carries on outside the bays, so you have to be in that bay in compliance with the restrictions in the bay, and if you're stopped outside that bay or anywhere else on the red route, you'd be in contravention of the no stopping restriction. Sorry if I'm not explaining that very clearly, but that's kind of the difference between the key difference between the yellow and the red restrictions.
Right, thank you. Sorry, Councillor Adele, you indicated?
Sorry, thank you, Chair. Just to clarify, and I think the other thing that you were saying was there isn't a drawn up proposal in this pack, so this can't move forward with a weighting restriction at this point anyway, because we don't have the plans. So there's a delay anyway. We can't go forward and do double yellows out of it with this lot because we don't have the plans for it. Yeah, is that right? Yeah. So
I think we need to get this right, and obviously, as I'll put it to subcommittee. Are you agreement with the officer's recommendation? Yeah. We want to get it right, everything, to do a proper job. I know it might take a bit of time, but I want to get it done. Thanks. Okay.
Chair, could we also put in an informal request that there is more enforcement up there? You know, that we continue to do that, because it is a really major source of danger and inconvenience to cyclists.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you. Right, moving on. The next ward I have is Kentwood. We've got 3 items in there. Pottery Road, request for double yellow line, and also Pottery Road and Corporate Way, request for double yellow line, and Armour Hill.
So, sorry to be a pain, Chair, but you didn't do Essex Street in Cates Grove?
Sorry, Councillor White, did you say?
Yeah, I didn't want to do anything other than say that Cates Grove councillors, the Green Cates Grove councillors support it, but
Sorry.
just to let you know that you hadn't covered it.
Councillor White, yeah. You okay with this? Are you agree with this? Yeah. 23. My apologies if I didn't get back to those. Yeah. Right. So Kentwood, Pottery Road, double yellow lines. I mean, I've got all okay. Councillor Mark Keeping.
Thank you, Chair. Kentwood Labour councillors are content with the officer's recommendations.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Singh.
Chair, agree with 22, 23, 24. I would say I would disagree with the recommendation. I think we should go ahead. I understand the rationale that putting double yellow line will push the parking further ahead, but that's the problem everywhere. Maybe we need overall review of double yellow lines. I also agree it's how much enforcement we can do, but I think I disagree with the 24. Otherwise, I agree with the other 2.
Thank you, Councillor Singh. James, yeah. Cool.
Thank you very much. So, like with some of the others we've raised, so we haven't got a scheme at the moment, so we just need a subcommittee decision on whether this gets moved into the the next programme, which will be the 23B programme.
Okay with that, subcommittee? Yeah. Okay. Sorry?
We have to make a decision on that, don't we?
Yep. Do you agree with that?
Because we've got a difference of opinion. Interestingly, sometimes you like double yellows and sometimes you don't. So we got to make a decision.
So is this?
No, it's not. Of course.
Are you agreement with that to go out to consultation? Yeah. Agreed, everyone? Yeah. Okay. Thanks. We move on to Norcote Ward, which is, we have 4 items in there. Close, Hammersdale. This is requesting for restrictions to have to protect grass verges. So,
sorry, Chair. We've had no objections from the Norcote councillors 25-26, have we? So we go ahead with that. And you notice written comments from the councillor stepped up for the first time to like to remove it. So support removing 27 from the programme.
okay, thank you. James, okay with that?
All the time.
Okay. Councillor Ennis, thank you. 2 items in Redlands Ward, Upper Redlands Road and Newcastle Road. Upper Redlands request for double yellow lines to entrance of Wantage Hall, and Newcastle Road request for double yellow line due to cause parking vehicle blocking.
Redlands councillors,
Councillor White?
Green Redlands councillors support both of these.
Yeah, okay, green. Fine, I don't see any more indications, so we go ahead with this, James. Yeah, support for that one. Next two items we have is in Southcote, Honey and Lane, request for extension of WL lines. Councillor Ennis.
Removed from the programme.
Okay, thank you. Next ward, we have 3 in Whitley ward.
Chair,
Ashby
you
Court.
missed Towhurst.
Sorry?
You've missed Towhurst.
Oh.
Sorry to be a bother.
Oh, sorry. My apologies, councillor. Yeah, my apologies. Yeah.
Please don't forget Towhurst.
Tarlis Beverley Road. Request for double yellow lines caused by vehicle blocking the access.
Yeah, so just to comment on this, so I know Councillor Hornsby-Smith was saying about the inefficiency of access protection markings, but I think that it depends on the road. I think it's quite important. So Beverley Road already has a couple of access protection markings, so it seems to work fine. It's a big road. I don't think WL lines are appropriate. I would agree with the officer recommendation here. However, I've not heard any complaints from residents on Beverley Road, and we speak to them regularly. However, if that changes, we can always get in touch and think about future solutions. So I agree with the officer recommendation to remove from the programme. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. My apologies, I was skipping that one. Right, thank you. Next, councillors. Next ward, we have Whitley, Ashby Court, and Foxes Road. A request for extension of double yellow lines. So this was sent out to all councillors, so I'm presuming this is okay because I've got no request. So we continue with these. Committee agree? Yep. That includes that. We move up to the next item, which is agenda item 6 on page 143. This is Green Park Station consultation results. Can I ask James to introduce officers to introduce them? Thank you, James. Could you?
Thank you, Chair. Reading Green Park Station was open to the public on Saturday, the 27th of May, and is supported by a multimodal interchange, including car parking, bus interchange, blue badge parking, and dedicated taxi drop-off pickup points. Following the decision of the last Traffic Management Subcommittee, officers undertook a statutory consultation on the various measures being proposed. In total, the council received only 3 responses to the consultation, with objections noted to the proposed parking charges, the 20-minute free parking, as well as the extension to the blue badge parking. Officers note that the fees proposed are consistent with the council's overall scheme of parking charges and are deemed appropriate. Regarding the window of free parking, officers note that these spaces are intended to be short stay, drop off and pick up points only. So we do not believe there is a justification for extending this period. Given the limited number of short stay spaces, we do not want to encourage people to stop longer than is required, potentially creating parking issues in peak times. And then finally, I just wanted to say regarding the blue badge spaces, officers would like to bring to the attention of the subcommittee that the member request to increase the blue badge duration was accepted by officers and put forward as part of the statutory consultation. Officers recommend the approval of the various TRO measures as detailed within the report.
Thank you. Councillor Ennis?
Yeah, thanks. I'd like to concur with what's been given there. James's view analysis on that. Note the recommended actions and to really welcome the Green Park station opening. It's open. It's long-term plan to link the south of Reading and the whole works that's going on around the Green Park, you know, and an ultimate link up with other public transport, I think will be the ultimate goal. So definitely welcome that. It's been an excellent project, taken a number of years, and welcome the proposals and note the objections, but would still support the recommended action as has been outlined by James. So very much support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ennis. I don't see no more indication. Subcommittee agreement with the recommendation action. Agreed. Thank you. We move on to item 7 on page 149. This is the A33 Rosekill Lane speed approval consultation. Perhaps to introduce that, perhaps.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to set out officers' proposal to reduce the speed limit on a section of the A33 in both directions from 40 miles an hour to 30 miles an hour. It's between the Berkeley Avenue overbridge where it oversails the A33 and 29 Rosekill Lane, which is the Kia garage. Just to clarify, the section of road is as per the drawing appended to the report in your packs and does not include Rosekill Lane approaching the Berkeley Avenue junction, which has been reported elsewhere. The speed limit reduction is necessary to enable the introduction of inbound and outbound bus stops, providing much needed transport links for employees and customers to the various commercial premises in the area. Officers recommend undertaking a statutory consultation and, subject to there being no objections, the committee approves that the TRO should be made.
Councillor John Ennis.
Yeah, thanks very much. Certainly note ask the recommendations to support the recommendations to take a statutory consultation as James has outlined. You can see the plan there, the section that's been discussed about was going to be consulted on from the 40 to 30. I think it makes sense. I'd thoroughly recommend it. On the basis of the 2.6 National Bus Strategy, Bus Back Better, we're receiving funding. We're going to come on to that in a minute. We're receiving funding from the Tory government. It's not council tax money. The Tory government have recognised the good work that's going on and the plans and the potential for the future. Because, a lot of these recommendations are not just for today, they're for tomorrow. And going forward, we're going to have a local transport plan coming forward. I'm sure many of you are going to be extremely interested in the next 17 years. I'll be 77 and hopefully still walking. So the whole, and this is the whole connection and the plan for the future, the strategy. Also to recognise 3.2 linking the corridor, because already there are some growing successful park and ride schemes, but we need to build more, and this will help. So it's just a jigsaw puzzle going forward for future schemes, so we can get there. So very much recommend the actions on page 149. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ennis. Councillor Adele.
Thank you, Chair. I very much support initiatives to support bus use. It's vital. It's key to our climate strategy. I am perhaps a cynic, and I wonder how well a 30-mile-an-hour limit on a road that was previously 40 mile an hour, sandwiched between two 40-mile-an-hour sections, is going to work. I'm wondering if we have spoken to Thames Valley Police about speed enforcement and what the plan is for that. I note that some carriageway widths are going to narrow, so I am a little bit concerned about people just not noticing that it's now a 30 mile an hour and just bombing through there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Adele. Next, I have Councillor Hacker.
Thank you, Chair. My point follows on for what Councillor Barnett Ward said. I use the A33 frequently, and people seem to think it's some kind of, I don't know, speed track at the moment, regularly doing over 40 miles an hour. I stick to the speed limit, they shoot past. So like you were saying, what's going to be done to enforce these speed limits? I know Portman Road has actually quite successfully gone from 40 to 30. You very rarely see anyone going above 30 now, but that did take road signs saying there's a new limit enforced, and they're still up, and I think it's still useful that they're still up. So yeah, I would also like to see what's going to be done to enforce this, because people just don't pay attention to the speed limit, and if they're coming in off the motorway, they don't feel really that they need to slow down. But I think it's great, I think we need more areas that are slower to protect pedestrians and also increase bus traffic, as pedestrians sometimes get forgotten. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Hacker. Councillor Gitting.
Yeah, I mean, actually on the papers, this is actually technically speaking in Coley Ward, my ward, and also Catesgrove by the nature of it. I mean, I think we support the measure. And I mean, I remember once upon a time, Berkeley Avenue, which leads on to the A33, that was a 40-mile-an-hour speed limit as well, which, you know, when you look back on it, was not a good decision, and that was reduced to 30, and speeds have come down. However, I would say in terms of Portman Road, which is obviously many of us go along in various guises, that has been successful. The type of road is very different by nature, but there is one thing there. There is a speed camera right in the middle of it, and that does, I think, act as something of a deterrent to slow people down. So I think that's a sort of measure that may well be needed there to slow that traffic down, because otherwise I don't think people will abide by this, laudable though it is. And also, obviously, with bus passengers traffic, that would be not a good mix.
Thank you, Councillor Gitting. Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Chair. I agree with everything everyone has said. I especially want to pick up on the point from Councillor Barnett Ward about the fact it goes from a 40 to a 30, then back to a 40 again. Could it be in the future we also consider the next part, the A33, also turn to a 30? So that's when it starts at 30 and it continues as 30. Because it does become 30 again further on. And I'm not sure how much cause there is to bring it back up to 40 again, because people should be really slowing down as they're coming into town. So just so that may well solve the issue on the basis that you're having a bit of a weird stage approach where you're actually just saying that's where it starts at 30. I don't know whether that can be considered as part of the next step for this, just trying to mitigate those issues.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. I don't see any more indication, and James, you've taken those points about, and can we?
I think that's a good point. Need to take that.
Sorry, Councillor Ince, do you want to add something?
I think just to make note that Councillor Moore's point, because you know, going in, going out, going 40, going 30 would be, and the question of enforcement. I think that's really good points to take forward to consider in the future.
Thank you. Yeah, James.
Yeah, I was going to say absolutely. Officers will take away to look at that, and whether or not that can be extended out to a wider area on the A33 makes a lot of sense. So thank you.
Thank you. Is the subcommittee in agreement with this recommendation? Thank you. Item 8 is the Crescent Road School Street scheme. Can I ask James to introduce this one?
Thanks, Chair. The purpose of this report is to update the subcommittee on the status of the Crescent Road Experimental School Street and to seek approval to make it permanent. The scheme on Crescent Road commenced in February 22, initially running during the morning period, 8:15 to 9 AM, and from the 8th of November 22, it was also made available during the afternoon. Statutory consultation was conducted between 28th of February 22 and 28th of August 22, resulting in a 66.7% support for making the scheme permanent. On this basis, officers recommend that the committee approve making the order permanent.
Thank you, James. Councillor Ennis, as a lead member, do you want to add something?
By the way, it's James Clements, isn't it? It should be. It's not James Turner, is it, on the report? Oh, you wrote it. Oh, see, being honest there, being honest.
I'm going, hang on, he's changed
being honest, being honest.
Report.
No, nice one. I like it. Got followed there by Councillor Barnett. I definitely want to it's all right, Paul, calm yourself. Want to recommend the three their recommendations, and really pleased that it's going to go permanent. I think I think these street schemes are excellent, outstanding. You know, the one in for Wilson and that, I go by there every morning as I'm walking to work, and it is well complied with, well engagement, and you see the parents and the children walking along in. And as a Southcote Ward Councillor that has to deal with issues around school traffic and school parking, I am green, not a member of the Green Party, but green with envy. That I want that to take place in some of the schools in Southcote. I'm jealous because I think they're excellent, but you can't have it. We've got to do it by, authority, by consultation and agreement. And you can see that the figures there, the residents have bought into it. And I'm really pleased, and it's good consultation response. There are some no's, and we note them, some of the opposing comments, which we should do, but by and large, it's a welcomed street scheme, and we should support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ennis. Councillor White, you indicated.
Thank you very much, Chair. We obviously support this being made permanent. It's great seeing the young people walking down the middle of the road unimpeded by cars, which it used to be fairly common for residents to raise that the congestion on Crescent Road was so bad that cars were mounting the pavement and driving along, and there were some very close calls. So it's really positive to see the change. I think Green Councillor Josh Williams was down there helping with the marshalling today, getting baked in the sun, but I think we should also acknowledge that it has displaced some traffic that can't go down Crescent Road. I think the overall amount of traffic has reduced, which is good, and we've got that better environment and we've got less air pollution, but there has been some displacement of traffic. So I think it's important we keep talking to residents and work out what can be done to help. I think it's also really important that we acknowledge the hard work of the volunteers that make the school street happen. The schools filled out the application form. Great, thank you very much, schools. But there's one volunteer in particular, Carol, who coordinates all of the volunteers, none of which are provided by the schools, to make sure the school street happens. And because it's a busy road, they need more marshals than I think any of the other school streets, because there's more closure points for them to marshal. So I'd like the council to keep looking long and hard about what we can do with camera enforcement, like we've done, like other authorities have done, because I guess my fear is that it only takes one key volunteer to drop out. So if that was the coordinator, for example, it could make the scheme hard to run, and it might drop back. So I think camera enforcement needs to be sort of looked at long and hard for the future. But for now, it's running strong. It's doing a great job. Keep up the good work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor White. Councillor Moore.
Great segue from Councillor White there. So I fully support this. I love school streets. Brilliant idea. Just want to sort of temper it a bit with what the experience has been in Tilehurst at Park Lane School on Downing Road. It's been really good. It's worked really well, but as time has ticked on, the volunteering enthusiasm has waned somewhat, and they're now struggling to volunteers to do it. That leads into what you were saying, Councillor White. I just kind of wanted to sort of temper enthusiasm a little bit. So obviously, I'm sure Park Hall councillors will be on top of that, as will the council. But I just want to tell the committee that as something that does happen over time. Obviously, we are very reliant on volunteers for these schemes who are brilliant, and they're doing it out of their own goodwill. But obviously, parents change over time. Same thing. You look at any school, whether you get the parents committee and things change depending on who's involved with it. So just thought I'd throw that out there as something to keep an eye on and monitor as we go along with all these school streets, which are absolutely brilliant, but we are very reliant and very grateful to the volunteers who are involved in them.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Adele Ward.
Thank you, Chair. It's lovely to hear so much support for school streets, which is something that came from the CAST Forum when I was chair. It's where we developed that idea through and first brought it forward. Just a question for one of the many Jameses in transport. I believe that the powers to control school streets through ANPR are currently only held by London councils. Is that one of the London ANPR powers? Be useful to clarify, given that we're hearing a lot of enthusiasm for that idea at the moment.
Thanks, Councillor Barnett Ward. Unfortunately, I can't give you the answer to that now, but I will take that away and speak to one of the many other Jameses to try and get a response for you on that, and we'll speak offline.
Right, thank you. I don't see any more indications, so I'll put it as, are we in agreement for recommendation action and point 2334? Thank you. I'll move on to item 9, which is BSIP bus lane proposal for statutory consultation.
Thank you, Chair. The report sets out 6 agreed measures from our BSIP programme, those being a variety of bus lanes across the borough. The report sets out the concept designs that have been developed in order to deliver on the objectives of the BSIP, and officers are seeking approval to carry out a statutory TRO consultation subject to the development of the detailed design. Officers are currently in the process of appointing designers to undertake the detailed design as well as detailed traffic modelling for each of the schemes proposed. Officers intend to report back to committee following the completion of design, modelling and the statutory consultation. Officers recommend that the committee approves the commencement of the statutory consultation later this summer.
Thank you. Councillor Hacker, Councillor John Ennis.
Yeah, thank you, Chair.
I'll take those down and have a public speaker as well on this one. So I'll take your down. Do you want to say something? And I'll come back to.
If that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, note that.
As a lead member.
Yep, as lead member,
Yeah.
and note that the RTA have made a, as you know, a request to have the public to speak. I mean, I really recommend this, and this is quite an important discussion, because, you know, we declared a climate emergency, and some residents and councillors believe it's not taking it seriously enough. And I think this example is one where we are showing, like we've done with a number of projects over the last period, that you know, traffic management, the environment, network services are taking the climate emergency seriously going forward. And the question we ask ourselves in the way we travel to work, and there's going to be a local transport plan, I really recommend that we all engage seriously with it. It shouldn't be a party political issue. It is a council issue. We're all affected by it, how we travel to work, how we travel to leisure. And therefore, this is to be seen as linked in with the local transport plan coming out to SEPT pretty soon. And we really want to work together with all councillors and interested parties, residents, interested organisations to have a good consultation on how we want the future of our travel. Because it's so important, you know, that we look at healthier Reading, we look at cleaner air, we look at cutting congestion. So it's an interest to car drivers who need to use their car, and we know there are many who have to use it. That would benefit them as well by cutting down on congestion. But we need to not hear stories anymore about children having asthma or the air and the environment in Reading, making it worse and worse and worse. And we have to be very, very mindful that there will be huge developments in this area, to the left of us, to the east of us, to the right of us, at all angles, and internally as well, which could bring in extra travel capacity. It will bring extra travel. And if we don't do anything about that, we could find ourselves gridlocked in the future. And the reasons are because this area is successful. People want to come here. They're not come here for the football team, which is a shame. One day I'll be that, but not yet. But they do want to come here because there's employment, there's opportunities, and it is central to a lot of activities. And the government has recognised that, and I will say this, that again, this is not a council tax situation. You know, the government's, I've noted it, where is it? It's in the report, to actually recommend the recommendations on 2.4, 176, is that the national bus strategy, Councillor Singh's looking at his petition there, but I'm actually paying a compliment to his government. The national bus strategy, Bus Back Better, was published in March 21, £3 billion funding. And we have received, Reading, 26 million of that, which is a sizable amount, Councillor Singh. And we're pleased with that. We want more, of course, but we're pleased. And it's how we're going to do that to ensure that we bus back better, but we also cycle back better, that we also keep safe pedestrians, and we also protect and support people who have to use a car for their travel and their lifestyles. People have to use the car. We're not anti-car here. We have to recognise that, but at the same time, we have to recognise that we cannot go on as we are now. And this, statutory consultation, which I hope we would support, with the proposals of 6 bus lanes in 3.1, and to read the appendices, and it goes through, and a lot of them are yet to be clear. There are, we have to say there are 4 which I personally feel, and I'm not an expert. That's another thing, is we listen to experts. This is a report written by experts, and the local transport plan is carefully considered and devised and thought out by experts. We're not Gove. We don't yardy experts. We listen to experts, but we need the people of Reading to come with us. We need the council, yourselves, who have a view, to look at this and to go for a serious consultation. There are 4 in there that I think don't look like they could make a lot of difference to impact, but there are 2 that we have to acknowledge and recognise will. But potentially these 2 could ultimately lead to a healthier, cleaner air and a healthier Reading. Please look at the appendices. They're not worked out now. They're not ready-made. They're ready for a consultation. We would really hope that you would be, especially the areas that will be affected, to look at, and they're there. There's quite a few, including my own ward, that you'd go for a proper, informed consultation to take into consideration the issues of the climate emergency, and going forward how we're going to cope in the future. So would thoroughly recommend it, and to link it in as well with the climate strategy that we've got, but also the local transport plan which is coming. We've got a marvellous opportunity. The Tory government recognised that we've got a good bus service, and there's other forms that we can processes within the money that we're going to do, like a ticket, and all sorts of stuff which is going to make life easier for people using the bus or cycling as well, that we need to concentrate on. So we really want to take that advantage of that 26 million that the government have dangled in front of us to ensure, and this is one way of doing it. So I'd recommend the actions and look forward to discussions, but also the consultation, which we know will be a challenge in parts. Let's acknowledge that, but we hope it won't become a party politically football, that we can try and have a decent discussion about how we want the future of our roads, because we're all affected. Okay, thank you.
Right. Councillor, if you don't mind, I'd let the lead members spoke first, and I would prefer we got a member of public, if he can come in maybe, and then we can ask some question he wishes to say, but I'll come back to you afterwards. So can I call on Mr. Asif Rashid? You wish to speak on this item? Could you turn the mic on and just
Thank you,
introduce
Chair.
yourself, and then what?
No, thank you, Chair. Some of you already know me. My name is Asif Rashid I'm the chair of the Reading Taxi Association and have been since July 2010. I've been a taxi driver in Reading, Hackney Carriage for almost 25 years. We're pleased to see that these bus lanes are coming in, and we're also pleased that from the outset, taxis have been included in these. My concern, though, is the use of the word taxi on the signage. I think all of these bus lanes that are coming in, they're all at pinch points, very critical, where you're trying to speed up buses so that they don't get stuck. And I think by using the word taxis in them, we'll delay the buses, not because of us, but because we have probably 200, 300, 400, 500 taxis licensed in other neighbouring boroughs that actually work in Reading for private hire firms. So if you have the word taxi, they're going to be in there, you're delaying your buses. My suggestion would be, and we've had this successfully trialled, and it's been working successfully on the Kings Road inbound, where it says buses and authorised vehicles only. So even in these new bus lanes, and ideally for me, as a chair, I would like this throughout the bus lanes within the Borough of Reading to be changed from taxi to authorised vehicle. Authorised vehicle being Hackney Carriages licensed by Reading Borough Council. And that way, this pushes those other taxis out. It will also make this council's life a little bit easier, because one of the points that the private hire trade always bring up is that they can't use bus lanes, but they've got colleagues licensed from other boroughs in bus lanes, and they feel that they're getting, they're not getting their money's worth, even though they're licensed by Reading. So I think on the wider issue, we can maybe look at the other buses later on, but certainly from the beginning, I really do feel that we need to be looking at this, buses and authorised vehicles as opposed to taxis. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rashid, for coming in and putting those points across. Do the subcommittee have any questions for Mr. Rashid? No? Thank you, Mr. Rashid. You can take the seat back. Sorry, Councillor Ennis. Yeah.
It's gone dead. No, thanks for coming tonight, and thanks for taking the effort out to make them points. I think they need to be noted and going forward. I think it's fair, it's fair comments, and to consider them going forward. Thanks for coming tonight. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Rashid. Take a seat. Or Councillor White. No, no, move on. Councillor Hacker.
Thank you, Chair. You'll get no party political nonsense from me because I haven't got one.
Sorry. Apologies, yeah.
It's all right. Maybe on the different side, but please don't forget me. Yeah, so I'm really pleased to see these plans come forward, ready to go to consultation. The plans for the Oxford Road are the ones I'm going to speak about, obviously, because that's where my ward is. First of all, I'm really pleased to see the way the bus lane is configured should hopefully remove some of the concern people have got around the yellow box junction at the bottom of Grovelands Road. They are very worried, and I've seen comment in all sorts of neighbourhood forums that, and my own mother, I'll give her credit for that, is that sometimes you cannot predict what's going to happen once you turn the corner from Grovelands into Oxford Road regarding the buses and the traffic. You're happily, merrily going along, you think you're all right, somebody sneaks in, you're stuck in a yellow box junction through no fault of your own. So this will allay that concern around the bus stop, because obviously the bus stop's being moved, the bus stop will be in the bus lane, and therefore the traffic can just go straight past it, and so any excuses over that yellow box junction will no longer be valid. So that's great news. I'm also pleased to see that the pedestrian refuge is being moved and retained. The distance between the two, and I walk that distance a lot because it's handy to walk just to B&M or to the post office. It's better to walk than get your car out. It's quite far from the pedestrian crossing at the Norfolk roundabout and the next one at the bottom of Grovelands. They're a distance apart, so you do need something in the middle. But what I would ask, obviously it's not for this particular, it might be for the future, that we consider having a different type of crossing there. I say this because the one at Norfolk roundabout is quite wide, it's quite fast. I've seen the elderly try and get across it before the lights change, and it is very difficult. I mean, I have to, put a bit of energy into it to get across in time. The one at the bottom of Groveland is really, on the north side, is really narrow pavement. So if you've got a pushchair, mobility scooter, anything like that, it's really hard to wait there to cross to the other side of the Oxford Road. There's nowhere to be out of the way. Whatever you do, you're going to be in the way of pedestrians. So great to have that retained, the island at this point, but maybe in the future we need to look to having a better kind of crossing, because this does really benefit buses. There very rarely is delay going inbound. Outbound, yes, there is. But we also need to think about the pedestrians as well and how safe it is to cross the Oxford Road. You've got a lot of foot traffic from Winslet Place. You've got a lot of foot traffic from the other side of the road as well. So to make it so you don't have to go that far or that far to get across safely would be great in the future. But I'm really pleased to see this, so thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hacker. I think our Councillor Singh, you indicate it, and Councillor White, and there was Councillor Moore. Okay, Adele as well. Go on, Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I just want to endorse Mr. Rashid's points about the Hackney carriages. It's a very different experience cycling one direction on the King's Road in the bus lane than it is cycling the other direction, and it's because one of those bus lanes has got a lot more vehicles in it than the other. I also was really pleased to see in the report, or in the consultation documents, references to confident cyclists. And I just wanted to make the point that we're recognising within this, which I think is really good, that this is just something that's going to support competent cyclists, but it's not as different enough experience from cycling on the road normally to get the sort of modal shift that we're aiming to get in Reading with more people using active travel. So it's a nice to have as far as cycling goes, but we still have our LCWIP and we still have those ambitions. And I don't want anyone to get distracted into thinking that the references to cycling in this bus lane in any way dilute our aims for cycling infrastructure. They don't. So I'm really pleased to see this. It's great we've got this investment and to improve public transport. And I just wanted to commend officers for not it, because it would be easy just to put in the consultation, and it's a fantastic cycling option as well. And I really like that we've got that recognition that it's fantastic for confident cyclists who will have a better experience, but we're not expecting families with young children suddenly to start cycling on the road because they can cycle in a bus lane. So that's brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Adele Ward. Councillor Singh.
Thank you, Chair, and I welcome the positive comments from Councillor Ennis, lead councillor, and congratulations on your lead role. I do miss Councillor Tony Page as well, but he already left the building, so that's fine. Firstly, I do also welcome £26 million provided by the government. Credit also goes to officers for making that application, jumping through the hoops, and getting that. So kudos to you and the team. When we provide a different perspective, it doesn't mean we are against you. It just means we are adding more value. And when we are in this chamber, we are in the same team, that is Team Reading. So I just want to bring 3 points on that report. One is on the cost. On this thing, it doesn't mention cost anywhere. We are going through a cost crisis, and how I would like to see how that 26 million are spent on the bus lanes, how much it is costing in the consultation, so I can make that decision whether we are getting value for money. The second thing is on the time. By how much time it would be reduced for the bus? Let's say it's take 50 minutes to take number 17 from Tilehurst to the town centre. Will it be 20 minutes now? It doesn't talk about that. It just says it reduces. It doesn't give me some data to make a decision. And also, it does mention that there's a traffic expected in the peak hours in some of these bus lanes. Again, it doesn't give an idea by how much will it delay a car driver by 50 minutes, 20 minutes or whatever. It doesn't give me that information. So, and climate strategy, which Conservative supports as well. Congestion also causes pollution, right? So as long as we want more people not using cars and goes in the bus, but there will be people using cars, and cars are driven by people. And one of our support idea is people first. So we need to consider that. So those data is missing. We have once bitten, twice shy. We have seen that with red route on Knockout Road. We painted the red route to improve the bus efficiency. A number of residents got fines. I know one lady on a pension, she has to pay £700 on just fines. And by how much the time was improved for the bus? 45 seconds. So all that money, efforts and aggro the residents has to go through has not improved. So that's why I need to look at the data. So appreciate if that can be done. And bus lanes, Reading is notorious for its bus lanes, always get national coverage for that. What, around 80,000 fines, 80,000 fines car drivers got through. So I don't want to be in that league of fines. I want to be in the league of best bus services, efficient bus services, and even the car drivers. I don't want to look as an anti-motorist town. It is so it's a fine line. So that's one thing we need to look at as well. So those are the points I like to make. So recommendation is expected from us that the subcommittee notes the content of this report. Yes, I do. The permission is given by the subcommittee to carry out statutory consultation on traffic regulation orders relating to this, but I believe those information is missing. So thank you for that.
Would you like to comment?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Singh. So I'll just quickly go through the various points on that. And what I would say is that one of the appendices to the report that you have in front of you was a informal consultation that we've been undertaken on the proposed concept designs, and it isn't the formal TRO consultation. So what we have been doing is working on the concepts. We're now in the process of working up the detailed design, at which point we will have more information in terms of displacement and doing traffic modelling, more information on the expected improvement efficiency for buses running along those various proposed bus lanes. So the intention is that we'll be working on that over the next few months, and that information will form and support part of the TRO consultation pack. So you don't currently have it in front of you. You have the informal consultation that we've run on the concepts, but all of that information will be available at the point that the TRO consultation, the formal statutory consultation, takes place. In terms of the cost of the bus lanes and how it's broken up, so what I would say is this is 6 relatively small measures as part of the wider £26 million programme of work that we've got going on at the moment. A large proportion of that relates to the A33, which we spoke about earlier in this meeting, as well as the fares reduction scheme that Councillor Ennis referred to earlier, which also accounts for probably about 8 million of that 26 million. So whilst I don't have the exact figures in front of me for those 6 bus lanes, what I can say is it's a fairly small proportion of that £26 million, and I'm happy to share that with you offline as well.
Thank you, John. Councillor White.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, Greens unsurprisingly support bus usage. We generally support the reallocation of space to more healthier, sustainable forms of transport. I guess following on from Councillor Singh a little bit with some process that I'm slightly confused by. Tonight, the recommended action is to move ahead to the statute to delegate the authority to go ahead with the statutory consultation, but we haven't finished the informal consultation yet. That finishes on the 16th, and I was hoping to get a bit of a summary of what people have said and some numbers. Like, I don't know, with each scheme, how many people are in support, how many people against, what sort of feedback, and we haven't really heard that. I appreciate that there's a lot of information there, and we haven't even finished the consultation yet, which I guess is one of the reasons it's hard to give that feedback. But it seems as though the process is a bit sort of arse about face, and that we should be finishing the informal consultation, digesting what people have said, then we should be, I would have thought we'd have the final designs and the final modelling and the details of mitigation coming back to this committee for councillors to look at and to debate ahead of going to statutory consultation, which is sort of the normal order of things, rather than delegating it all away towards the end of the informal consultation without having even let that complete. So I don't know if we're under some particular time pressure, and that is why we're rushing it, it seems to me, or if there's a reason if there's some reason, but I'd be interested in hearing what that is. But just to continue with a concrete example, I represent Park Ward, as you know. So residents in Park Ward have just been through a bridge closure, chaos on London Road, a number of different traffic light problems, and I suspect if you start consulting in the immediate future, there's going to be a lot of, I think Councillor Ennis acknowledged that it's going to be a tough consultation in some areas. Pressing ahead right now, before we've had a chance to sort of fully digest what's going on, have a say, and the rest of it seems to me like a recipe for disaster in terms of a consultation. So what I'd quite like is not to delegate the authority for the statutory consultation tonight, unless there's a really good reason to do it. That would give us over the summer to the next traffic committee to fully consider the informal consultation, consider the designs that have been drawn up, consider the mitigation, look at the data modelling of what you think is going to happen, which residents will be very, very interested in, and then we can continue at that point to the statutory consultation. That would seem like a sort of sensible way forward. If there's a good reason to press ahead and really crack on with this, I'd like to hear what it is. But I'd also like to hear about how, if we're delegating away the authority, how are we as councillors gonna get a good chance to input into what's going forward? If none of it's final, it's all up in the air, and we could go ahead with what's in front of us this evening, but that's not the final designs. So I'd appreciate. But I've tried not to be particularly party political and just to be fairly neutral in those comments, but I think that they are reasonable things that my residents would expect me to be asking and expect a reasonable answer back.
Thank you, Councillor White.
I won't be party political and say, I won't say that Green councillors kick environmentally friendly measures into the long grass. I won't say that. What I will say is consultations. You have, I think if we'd have mapped up and fully done a full one and everything done, every T crossed and I dotted, then councillors rightly, I'm looking at the two of you, would rightly criticise that as it's a fait accompli. It's a fait accompli. You've agreed it, and now you're going to go out to statutory consultation, and it's done and dusted. What we're doing, right, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I think it's valuable remarks. I think the comments are valuable, and we need to take on board, and we need to work together, and we need to work with you. So yeah, but what we're asking is permission is given by the subcommittee to carry out a statutory consultation on traffic regulation orders, and they are well planned up. And I'm not a traffic person, I'm a people person. I don't do traffic, but I'm traffic now, so I'm here now. I think they're quite straightforward. I think we know where the problems will be. I think we're pretty clear as to some which we think will be pretty good and some which we think will be difficult. The actual numbers, the figures, the working out, the actual, and I disagree about the 45 seconds. That's another issue though, another issue, Councillor Singh. But we've got a pretty good idea as to where the challenge will be and not. And I think what we're asking to do tonight is not to decide on finalised plans, because them plans, what's been suggested, will be shaped, hopefully, by residents and local councillors. So we'll have a statutory consultation, which will then come back. And I suspect we could be still looking at some changes, because someone is going to be bright enough to go, have you thought of that? Because it does. It's like water, isn't it? Comes up in odd places, and you didn't think of that. So really, this is a genuine consultation, Councillor White, which we're desperate for the Green Party and the Conservatives and the Lib Dems, to be involved with, and Councillor Hacker when she returns to the Labour Party. We would generally want that, and that's the way the view is tonight. Is these are not fait accompli plans that are done to a detail, because we need to have a discussion about this. Hence, that's why damn recommendations are there tonight. It's to sign off a consultation, a statutory consultation, and then we can have a look at it. And we've done that in the past, and we've done the other way as well. But I think we want to have a discussion and a dialogue with the people of Reading and all the political parties of Reading, and very much welcome the comments. Welcome the comments, and we need to move forward on that. Hence, that's the reason why that's like that tonight, Councillor White. Right, but I might be wrong.
Thank you, Councillor Ennis. Do you want to comment?
Yeah, I mean, what I would say, and I thank you, Councillor White, for your comments. I think what I say is we are under, as a council, we're under significant time pressure to spend this funding. What I'm not saying is that we're just spending money for the sake of it. But what I didn't want officers to do was come back in, because we've obviously got the summer break now. We wanted to try and get ahead of the curve in terms of being able to start consultation processes. What I'm not saying is that after this committee, the statutory, so we've got the informal consultation ends on Friday. Next Monday, we start statutory consultation. That's not what's planned for this, but what we didn't want to do was be waiting through the whole summer. So the intention is that officers will spend the coming weeks assessing all of those comments that have come in through the informal consultation, and we would expect those to shape the detailed design that is going forward. The intent of this report, and in requesting or recommending approval to go out to TRO, is to TRO consultation, sorry, is not to say that a decision has been made, but rather to say we want to make sure we're putting this out to the public consultation as soon as possible. And as has been noted in the report, we would be bringing that back to this committee or any other committee to seek recommendations to move forward with any of those plans.
Thank you, James. Thank you, John. Councillor Ennis. Appreciate your honesty about the time pressure, which I didn't hear from Councillor Ennis, but thank you for that. I guess with the once statutory consultation starts and it comes back to the traffic committee, we have very small powers, limited powers to change stuff. So at that point, it's very difficult to make changes. Is my experience on the traffic committee. So I suspect once it comes back, it's sort of accept it or not is generally how it goes in my experience. If you're going to crack on with it, I would be interested, and I'm sure the councillors on the subcommittee would be interested in getting the results of the informal consultation once you've collated them, in getting early sight of the statutory consultation materials, which we would normally get, rather than them just going up on the website and us not having seen them. And so is that your expectation, James, that we will get all of those materials nice and early and ahead of them being made public, so we can, as ward councillors, input into the schemes?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, Councillor White. Like, there's no intent not to do that. We want the input of all members of the council in terms of their views around those schemes, and I'd propose that we have regular conversations as the detailed designs are being worked out, both with yourself and any other members that are interested.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Back on that, it's government money. They have conditions. We can choose to spend it, or we can choose to let it go. Yeah, there's always a timescale and a time frame. I think we should look to involve every member of the traffic management panel. We should go out and have a look at these places. We should set up, like we do in planning. If you want to do that, we can do that. Go out and have a look, and for ourselves, see for ourselves what the situation is currently, and then go through, and we should have updates. I don't see any reason why that wouldn't be the case, and I wouldn't see how officers wouldn't want that in any other way. There will be a time at the end when it's mapped up, and you can roughly see what's going to happen in your area. You've got 2 lanes going in, one of them's going to be turned into a bus lane. It's the question about the intricacies and the issues about the turning into Liverpool Road, the issues about potential rat running. There's all that sort of stuff. But by and large, Councillor White, I come from adult social care. This isn't as complex as adult social care. It's challenging because it affects everybody. It affects everybody, but it's broadly there, isn't it? Let's be frank. It's broadly there, but we need proper consultation and an update. I totally agree with your request to do that. You can hang me out to dry on that, but ultimately there's a difficult decision on some of these that we may have to make or not, isn't there? Moving on.
Thank you, Councillor. And so, Councillor Moore, you've been waiting for a while.
Thank you very much. I think this is kind of already been covered, but I was just kind of trying to make a constructive suggestion. Obviously, the informal consultation ends in a couple of days, and it does say in this report the statutory consultation will begin in July, so it won't begin straight away. So that it gives us a few weeks. I don't know if there's any thought about when in July, but as long as possible, if possible, obviously we've got summer break, and I really appreciate that. We want to get out before then. But yeah, if we can get, and I don't know whether it's members of the committee or all members, in fact, it may be useful to go where actually the detailed design, which obviously should be in place before the statutory consultation happens, because it can't happen without it. If we get sight of them before you even begin statutory consultation, like, at least a week, if more, if possible, so we can feed in and say, now I realise we've seen the broad thrust of it on what we see today in this report in the appendices, and I have thoughts on those things. I know them in Tilehurst, but I have thoughts on some of the other ones, but I realise they're not the final designs. But I think it would be very valuable, and that would hopefully allay these concerns if we can see it and have the ability to feed in as almost like a member, not consultation because that's an official terminology, but a way for us to feed in our thoughts and concerns and suggestions before the statutory consultation begins. And then that may tweak things. I'm not suggesting that people are going to say, rip this out or put a bus lane in this other place we haven't suggested. I'm talking about tweaks to things here. I hope that's a constructive suggestion that isn't that people would agree with. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Councillor Adele Ward, you indicate.
Thank you for letting me come back, Chair. Just to observe through you, Chair, that if we spent too long consulting and therefore had to return some of this money, the parties opposite will be very quick to put that all over leaflets. So it's a bit strange. Yeah, bit of a strange approach from them, or perhaps it's a very political approach from them to suggest we should spend a long time on consultation and maybe run out of time.
Thank you. Councillors, thank you, please. Yeah. Councillor Andrew Smith.
Yeah, I mean, I think Councillor Ennis has put it quite well in that, we're going to be consulting on the best possible scheme that we've got on the basis of the evidence that we've got from the informal consultation. I think that's reasonable. The officer's given a perfectly good response on that. Just in terms of, I know that the slur, that the idea that, we've got to do it really quickly because the government is chasing us. I think we've got to do it really quickly because we've got a number of people who've got asthma attacks as a result of bad air pollution in East Oxford, especially around the East Reading, especially around the Cemetery Junction area. So, I mean, I think my request would be, when we do finally go out to consultation on this, is that we also make sure that we consult medical teams to get their evidence about the impact of the air pollution that we're experiencing at the moment. And that, to me, is the driving force of why we have to do this, why we have to consult as quickly as we possibly can on this. I mean, I think other people have made the point that we know generally what we're going to be doing. There are the niceties that will come through on the consultation, but if it works, then that's what we should be doing, and we should be doing it as quickly as we possibly can, also to meet the government timelines, but predominantly and mainly because we need to improve the health of East Reading.
Thank you, Councillor. I think we had no more indication and we had a good debate. And as quite agree with, we need to take this out and then still,
Yeah, sure. Sorry about this.
yeah, go ahead.
But I think there's some important points that have been made, particularly by the colleagues opposite, is that we can look at, can't we? And, you know, we can look at James' briefings on the plans, you know, full consultation and to look at what actually is being proposed as we go along. I don't see that as a problem along at all, James. Yeah. So I hope that's reassured you. You know, we attempt to reassure on that. You know, thanks, Chair.
Okay, thank you. So can we agree to note and agree with the recommended action? Agreed? Or do we need to have a vote on? Everybody in agreement? Yeah? Good, great, thank you. Right, the next item we have is item 10, which is the Reading Retail Park proposal for new waiting restriction. Can I ask Darren Cook to come?
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, just like to confirm that I'm not James or a James. One of the very few.
I did say Darren.
Thank you, Chair. This report sets out the proposals linked to the development at Reading Link Retail Park on Rosekiln Lane and includes the provision of a no waiting anytime restrictions on both sides of the radii to the new access into the retail park. The inclusion of the waiting restrictions is deemed necessary to ensure that indiscriminate parking does not occur within the new access that could result in obstruction and lead to queues back onto Rosekiln Lane. Funding for the statutory consultation comes from the Section 278 Highway Works Agreement, which was secured to facilitate the construction of the junction and implementation of the waiting restrictions described above. The implementation of the waiting restrictions will also be undertaken by the developer. We are asking the committee to permit officers to carry out the statutory consultation. We need to advertise the alterations as detailed in the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Darren. Councillor Ennis, you want it?
Yeah, briefly, just to note the recommendations and happy with the report and would sternly hope that we can support the recommendations, and thanks, Darren, for the report.
Thank you. I don't see any more indications, so the subcommittee agree to the recommended action in 1.2. Agree. Thank you. Next item we have is item 11 is Reading Cold Store, Deacon Way, proposal for alteration existing waiting restriction.
Thank you, Chair. This report sets out proposals linked to the development at Reading Cold Store site on Deacon Way. These changes are required to help facilitate access to the development site as a result of the relocated access. Commencement of the development is subject to the positive outcome of the consultation, as the changes are fundamental to this proposed access arrangement. Without them, access would not be possible for larger delivery vehicles because of the current on-street parking arrangement. The proposal subject to this report consists of redistributing the existing single and double yellow line waiting restrictions on both sides of Deacon Way in the vicinity of the site. The proposed and existing arrangements can be found at Appendix 1 and 2 of the report. The alterations do result in a reduction of 3 on-street car parking spaces. However, this is mitigated by the provision of 7 new on-site parking bays, which the site historically had no parking on site at all. Overall, the scheme would present a benefit to the wider area by reducing the demand for on-street parking and as such creating additional space on street. Funding for the statutory consultation will be paid for by the developer, who will also be responsible for the implementation of the waiting restrictions that would be undertaken by way of a Section 184 licence. We are asking the committee to permit officers to carry out the statutory consultation. We need to advertise the alterations as detailed in the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Darren. Councillor Ennis.
Support the recommended actions on page 205 and the SCEPS report, and thanks Dan for the report.
Thank you, Councillor Ennis. I don't see any more indication. Anybody? No? Can the subcommittee agree to recommend action in point 34? Agreement? Yeah, agree. Thank you. Moving on to the next item is 12 Jackson Corner proposal for statutory consultation. And I have James Penman come back again. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, back to the original James now. So as part of a planning permission that was given to the Jackson's Corner building, there was a plan attached to that which proposed some changes to the area outside, namely widening the narrow footway that runs alongside the bus shelters, which I'm sure you'll agree during peak times is a bit tight with thankfully with queuing passengers, which is excellent. And also improving a loading provision around the site. So we're seeking today approval to undertake the statutory consultation on those changes. So whilst we acknowledge that there are benefits and lots of benefits to the proposal, we do also acknowledge that to achieve that design, and the one that's attached is the one that was approved in the planning permission, it does involve the movement, and I stress the word movement of some disabled bays and a motorcycle bay. So we would be seeking full views and objections on the proposal. We propose to go with the original developer plan, albeit again acknowledging in the report that some clarifications are needed because it doesn't fully cover all of the changes. So we would do that to provide a detailed drawing that's very clear to our standards and provide that before the consultation. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Councillor Ennis, do you want to answer?
I mean, happy with the report. Note the recommendations and hope we can support it. Thanks, James, for the report.
Thank you. I don't see any more indication. No? Oh, Councillor Adele, sorry. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I've just got a couple of questions for Jay. Well, first of all, a commendation. I'm really pleased to see that widening of the footway. It's very much needed. That's going to be great. I wondered if there'd been any consideration of providing a contraflow cycle lane now that it's changing the direction on Abbey Square. That's a cut through for cyclists travelling down from the Forbury. They go on some private land and then they come down through. I think we're going to see cyclists still doing that even when we change the road. Noting that Central Library is going to move out of that site. Obviously, no decision has been made about what then happens to that site, but there's going to be some change of use. So I'm sort of flagging it, really, that I think there's an opportunity there, even if right at the moment while you're doing this, it's too narrow. I think there should be a little marker put in there that I think that would be a useful, so that we can have two directional cycle traffic coming down through there, because you're going to get that anyway.
Thank you. Mr. Penman, you
absolutely acknowledge that totally. I mean, at the moment with the plan that we've got to achieve that would mean some quite significant widening of the carriageway, and also I believe the motivation for or the main motive for reversing that one-way direction is because what we're trying to, well, what the plan intends to do is to put a lot more into an already quite congested space, and it does bring that closer to the junction. So the visibility displays that you would normally want exiting the junction as it is now arguably would not be achieved with this plan. So it would be the same with cyclists, but absolutely town centre cycling, want to do what we can. So yeah, any future plans have got to have an eye on what could we do to create a route for cycling where there potentially isn't one at the moment. And that would be certainly that's something that we can note.
Thank you, James. Don't see any more indication. So do the subcommittee agree to recommend action? Agreed. Thank you. Next item we have is item 13 is the local SIL fund scheme, a result of statutory consultation. First one is a zebra crossing Imperial Way and Whitley Wood Lane, and the second is traffic calming, Shore Road and Boston Avenue. So James, I hand over to you.
Thank you, Chair. So yes, we've undertaken statutory consultations on two funded, locally funded schemes. So as the Chair's rightly said, one of them is for placement of two new zebra crossings, one on Imperial Way, one on Whitleywood Lane. And the other scheme is for adding traffic calming features, road humps, or speed humps, sorry, to Shore Road at Boston Avenue, which are an existing 20-mile-an-hour zone. So we're seeking views from, or we're seeking agreement to implement those schemes as advertised. We've received a relatively little feedback. We've provided officer comments against that feedback, and we don't believe, as officers, that there is anything there that would lead to a different recommendation from us. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gitting, you indicated.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, obviously, I'm speaking on the Shore Road, Boston Avenue scheme, which is obviously in my ward. And if you look at the formal consultation, the people who made a response, it is broadly even in terms of actually probably just in favour of the objectors. There's one person sort of kind of sitting on the fence. There's only six responses. I mean, however, there was an article in the media about this based on those responses, and then subsequently there's had a kind of say flood of emails, but a steady trickle of emails, which I know have been addressed to yourself and myself as a ward councillor, and you know, those almost broadly have supported the scheme. You know, we'll say unanimously, but there's been a good strength of support for it from these residents. So I'm confident that in general on Boston Avenue, we have done, as Councillor Singh referred to, sort of going out in the driving rain, talking to residents in Kentwood. Well, I think we've sort of done metaphorically the same in Boston Avenue, and consulted residents over a number of different schemes arising from this being used historically, as long as I've been a ward councillor, as a rat run, because people, when they see the tailback of traffic down Berkeley Avenue, they cut down Shore Road and then so whiz down or whiz up Boston Avenue to try and, you know, save a couple of minutes either way. And so obviously residents object to that, and I think actually one of the residents I named contacted me had said that his car had been struck at sort of somebody doing, he thought about 45 miles an hour. Well, I mean, I don't know about the speed, but it's quite a serious incident because people, you know, when they're rat running, they too tend to speed. So sort of taking it as a whole, I think, you know, we would like to see proceed with this scheme. I mean, residents have also made, I mean, they're not recorded here, but some other suggestions, as they tend to, around what we could also do. But obviously that's not for us to discuss tonight. And I think what I'd like to see is obviously the scheme implemented as quickly as possible, which is in addition to the 20-mile-hour scheme we've already got in there, and also around Coley. And then if we find that we're still getting instances of this and problems at junctions, we can take another look at these and bring them back with due process to the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gitting. Yes, I did get a various email for the support for the restrictions, and also just like to point out that there's I didn't get any objection regarding the zebra crossing Imperial Way. I think the councillors have support for it as well, so I didn't receive any objection, so quite happy to carry that forward. So I don't see any indication from the floor. So are we happy to agree with the recommendation action? Take that forward. Thank you. Right, next item we have is item 14, which is the evolution of local civil scheme update, traffic Redlands traffic calming. Mr. James Penman to introduce that.
Thank you, Chair. So this is more of an information report. So following the evaluation report we brought to the subcommittee in, I think it was November last year, on the additional speed calming measures that we added to the Redlands area, there were actions to meet with Reading Cycle Campaign, which we did alongside some local residents as well. So it's more reports to report some of the suggestions that were made, some of the things that were pointed out, to add some initial officer comments. Now this was in addition to the original officer recommendation to replace the feature, the priority flow feature on Redlands Road. So there's still work to be done. There's still a bit of disagreement on what should change. There is still no identified funding, I need to stress, to make these changes. However, the one recommendation that we have made in this is that we believe that the Redlands Road priority flow feature should be the priority when any funding does arise for change, because it's the only item that was picked up in a road safety audit. It also seems to be the single biggest source of complaint locally, so I think we could address two issues in one once funding is available. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ennis.
I mean, I want to come in, but I was going to suggest if Redlands councillors that are here tonight want to make any points in that, but I'll come in because I've got some comments from Councillor Cross. I don't know if you want to make any comments on it.
I don't have a specific comment. I was there at the meeting and I'm glad to hear that you're taking into consideration, and obviously that priority issue, it just doesn't quite make sense at the minute, does it? So it would be good to revise that, and yeah, I trust that you're going to make some good work on that. So I don't have any further comment on it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Cross, he said that, he's discussed it with yourselves, I believe. Don't have a real issue if Christchurch Road, maybe he agrees with Councillor McElroy. I think they've agreed on the reason. I think the issue for him, and it's interesting, we could take it outside, I don't know how we can do this, is that there were some suggestions that he had made. He amended it to just the build outs in the north bit of Redlands Road due to them pushing cyclists out to the road instead of allowing the cycle through bypass. His suggestion is mentioned in the report, but he thinks it's got a bit lost amongst the discussion amongst other aspects of the scheme. And he was looking, I think it was Allcroft Road, adjusting the Allcroft Road junction is what he was suggesting. I don't know how, I don't think he's against, I don't think he's not against it, so we're not looking to, but I think he wanted to have a discussion about some changes. I don't know, how do we scope that? That's the point. Because he feels that some of what he was suggesting has been lost in the general themes of the report, allowing the cycle bypass, to be. So I don't know what the score is on that, James.
Thank you. Councillor James.
Well, firstly, I apologise if anything. It seems that it's perhaps lacking the full detail. It is intended as a summary report, and certainly acknowledge that there needed to be further discussion. So, yeah, we invite that. I think there'll need to be a further meeting. But as I say, what we're not able to do at the moment is to put resources onto redesigning this scheme. We don't have the funding. We don't have the resources. However, in terms of having an open dialogue so that we can meet again, come back together, rediscuss and come up with a plan of agreed, potentially feasible options, absolutely we welcome that, and that I hope comes across in the report as what we'd like to do.
Thanks, James. That's very helpful as ever. Maybe we'll tell him to maybe come to yourself with the comments he's made, and then we can see how it goes. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor. And it's Councillor White.
Thank you, Chair. Just wanted to pick up on the fund. I don't disagree with anything that anyone said. I just wanted to pick up on James's comment about the funding of anything that we might want to do. And yeah, definitely, it sounds like the issue that was picked up in the road safety audit should be a priority. So when stuff's been picked up in road safety audits before, I've got the impression it's been implemented fairly quickly. It's not sort of waiting around for 3 years to the next round of sort of still local spend or something like that. What funding streams would you envisage might be available for funding this as a priority, and what sort of timescale would you put on it, or would you just say don't know and how long's a bit of string?
James?
Somewhere in between. There could be a number of sources. So Section 106 for the local SIL funding, we're expecting another round of that this year. There could be a variety of sources. As for how long, I don't have that answer, so I wouldn't like to guess at this point. But certainly, again, that's something that we'll be bringing to the discussions, and it is something that's being looked at internally.
Thank you, James. I don't see any more indications, so can we agree for recommended action in point 1 to point 5? Committee agreed, yeah? Thank you. This concludes first part of the meeting, so we're going to move on to the second. And can I ask member of public and press to leave the building? The local percent of Section 100A of the Local Government Act 1972, member of press and public to include during the consideration on these items agenda. It is likely it will disclosure information that is confidential in relevant paragraph Act 1 and Section 12A of the Act. So can I ask everybody to, member of public and press to leave the building, and also the councillor to switch off the mics as well.